The sky was on fire. Lightning skated across the hull, slicing the clouds into ribbons as Jack's Rourke yanked the control yoke hard to the right. His cargo hauler was never meant to enter an atmosphere this dense, especially not with half its thrusters dead and the other half offended by the concept of cooperation. The proximity alarm shrieked in a tone that suggested a lawsuit. "Don't start judging me now," Jax muttered. "You've made worse landings." The ship disagreed by throwing sparks from the console. Red warnings clashed together across the display. Engine 1 critical. Stabilizer failure. Hull temperature unsafe. NAVCOM unresponsive. Unresponsive? You and me both, Jack said through clenched teeth. Outside, the world grew sharper, purple ridges rising like jagged teeth, rivers reflecting twin suns that burned low and heavy. He wasn't supposed to be anywhere near this system. The jump coordinates had glitched, and instead of a refueling stop at Kepler Station, he'd exited hyperspace into a gravity well he didn't recognize. And then the storm hit. A violent shudder rattled through the frame. Metal groaned. Panels rattled loose. Jax grabbed the emergency throttle. "Stay together, sweetheart. We get through this, and I swear I'll upgrade your stabilizers. I'll even buy the Rio brand duct tape." A loud bang answered him from somewhere below the cockpit. Then silence. That was never good. The ship nosed down. "Okay. Fine. Don't stay together." He slammed both boots onto the floor pedal, fighting the dive. Heat rippled along the viewport. The ship shook violently then. Impact. The world became motion and noise. Metal screamed. Distant trees blurred past. Dirt and crystal splinters blasted across the canopy. The ship bounced once, twice, before grinding sideways into an outcropping. Silence finally settled in as dust drifted through broken instruments. Jax hung upside down in the crash webbing. "Well," he exhaled. "That was terrible." He thumbed the buckle. Gravity asserted itself, dropping him headfirst into what used to be the ceiling. Pain shot through his shoulder. He rolled onto his back and took a breath. The cabin smelled like burned insulation and regret. His vision steadied, and he began his checklist. Fingers? Working. Legs? Sore but intact. Spine? Still installed. Pride? Missing in action. Jax crawled toward the emergency hatch and kicked it open. A gust of wind scattered dust into the air. The outside world was unreal. Violet grass, crystalline structures catching the sunlight, thin streams cutting through the valley like silver arteries. 2 suns hovered above, one amber, the other pale white. He stepped onto alien soil. His boots sank into the ground with a soft crunch. The air carried a faint metallic tang. He pulled a compact emergency beacon from his pocket. Small device. Flashing blue light. "Rescue signal active," he said. "Time to get picked up." He pressed the activation switch. Nothing happened. He shook it. "Don't do this." "Not today." The beacon flickered once, then dimmed. That wasn't a malfunction, it was interference. Jax turned slowly, scanning the valley. The terrain wasn't empty. Patterns cut into the distant hills suggested cultivation or deliberate design. Not random erosion. Someone lived here. He didn't have long to confirm it. A faint vibration rolled beneath his boots. Rhythmic. Controlled. Not natural. Approaching footsteps. Jax's pulse jumped. He spun toward the sound. Shapes emerged through the haze, tall silhouettes, moving with unsettling precision. Humanoid, but something about their gait was too coordinated, too smooth. Metallic parts glinted against their limbs. One figure stepped ahead of the others, a woman, tall even by human standards. Her skin held the muted purple of twilight. Silver hair fell past her shoulders, catching the light in shifting reflections. Her left leg wasn't complete. A biomechanical prosthetic extended from mid-thigh to the ankle, exposed servos, mismatched plating, cables running along the limb. Functional but imperfect. She regarded him with emotionless poise. You piloted that vessel? She asked, voice steady. Jax brushed dust off his jumpsuit. Pilot is generous. Mostly I just tried to not explode. She didn't smile. Another figure approached behind her, heavier, taller, armored like a living weapon. The woman raised a hand, stopping him. She took a single step toward Jax, measured, balanced, compensating for the uneven mechanics of her prosthetic. Her movements were graceless only when compared to her companions. The others moved like ballet. She moved like someone who had to think about every step. How did you enter restricted airspace? She asked. Wrong turn, Jax said. And space navigation hates me. She studied him. You are human. Jax blinked. That's correct. And you are? Sarah Vale. No title. No rank. Just a name. Why did you activate a distress signal? Because I prefer not dying alone on a strange planet. You broadcast on open bands. She pointed toward the horizon. Dominion scouts will detect it. Dominion? A faction that values efficient perfection. Her tone sharpened. You do not meet that standard. Jax lifted his hands. I don't even meet my own standard most days. A faint buzz vibrated overhead. 3 autonomous drones cut through the air, scanning with red lenses. They descended toward the wreck. Sarah's expression cooled. They are already here. One of the drones angled toward Jax, target laser painting his chest. His heart hammered. Sarah moved first. She hooked her hand into a port behind her prosthetic knee. Something clicked. Her leg's internal coil hummed to life. With precise timing, she kicked a loose panel on Jax's ship. The metal, still hot, released a plume of thermal energy. The drones rerouted instantly, locking onto the hotter signature instead of Jax. They opened fire on the wreck. Jax stared. You did that on purpose? Yes. You just used my ship as a decoy. It was already destroyed. He couldn't argue. Sarah scanned the valley again. More will arrive. We move. She turned away, motion calculated and efficient. Her prosthetic ticked faintly, barely perceptible, but noticeable if you looked closely. It wasn't polished. It wasn't flawless. It worked because she forced it to. Jax hesitated. Shouldn't we wait for my rescue team? When the beacon kicks through? Her expression didn't change. No signal escapes this valley. The atmospheric veil nullifies outbound transmissions. So I'm stranded? Unless we reach the beacon array. She pointed toward distant spires rising like frozen lightning. Signal strength that can pierce the veil. Jax looked at the distance. Can you get me there? Yes. Something flickered behind her eyes, not fear, but a calculation. She expected him to refuse. He glanced toward the smoking wreck of his ship. Staying here meant eventual capture, or worse. He jogged to catch up with her group. Lead on. Sarah paused. You should know something. What? The array trials kill those who cannot adapt. Jax blew out a breath. Perfect. My specialty is making bad decisions look intentional. For half a heartbeat, her expression shifted, just slightly. A crack in her composure. Maybe amusement, maybe disbelief. We will see, she said. And without another word, Sarah Vale, broken leg, rigid posture, mismatched machinery, turned and led him toward the spires. Jax followed. Not because he trusted her, but because she moved like a person who survived impossible things, and he had a feeling he was about to need someone like that. The first spire loomed like a shard of moonlight stabbed into the earth. Up close, it wasn't smooth. It shimmered with veins of circuitry beneath translucent crystal. The whole thing hummed, not loud, but deep, like the building itself had a pulse. Jax stared up at the structure, hands on his hips. This looks like a giant USB drive someone worships. Sarah didn't slow her stride. The spires predate every civilization currently breathing. Cool. Still looks like something that demands a firmware update. You speak nonsense to mask fear. Absolutely. She stopped before an entrance framed by intersecting plates of metal and crystal. There was no visible door, just a seam that might open if it felt generous. Sarah placed her palm on a circular recess. Nothing happened. She exhaled sharply. Jax noticed the subtle tension in her jaw. The others in her group, 6 warriors who had escorted them from the wreck, stood several steps back, forming a loose perimeter, eyes scanning the hills. "Why isn't it opening?" Jax asked. Sarah withdrew her hand. "The spire admits only those with qualifying integration. Meaning, my biomechanical signature is incomplete." She said the word quietly, as if it were a confession. He looked at her prosthetic leg. The plating didn't match the rest of her sleek enhancements. Nothing about it looked standardized. It was built from scraps. "Who decides what qualifies?" Jax asked. "The spire," she answered. "Like every system on this world. And the spire doesn't recognize you." She didn't respond. Jax stepped forward. "What if it recognizes me?" "You have no augmentation," she said. "The threshold will reject you immediately." He shrugged. "Never hurts to try." He placed his palm against the recess. The spire reacted. The seam split open with a hiss and a rush of cold air. Sarah blinked. "That should not be possible." The warriors behind her tensed, weapons shifting into ready positions. Jax turned, smirking. "Guess the building likes unmodified software." "Or," one of the warriors growled, "it detects ignorance and pities it." Jax pointed at him. "Love the team morale." Sarah stepped inside. Jax followed her into darkness. The warriors stayed outside, weapons drawn. Once they crossed the threshold, the entrance sealed behind them. Total darkness. Then the floor lit beneath their feet, thin lines of blue guiding a single path. The hallways stretched ahead, lined with shifting symbols. The walls weren't stone, they were alive with information, rippling like memory. Sarah's voice dropped. "Stay beside me. Do not touch anything unless I tell you." Kind of assuming that's mutual. Her eyes flicked his direction. "It is not." He almost laughed. But then the hallway changed. The blue path flowed downward, forming stairs that hadn't existed seconds before. And the ceiling moved. Panels shifted like rotating puzzle pieces, revealing glimpses of machinery hidden above, smooth, elegant, and old. "Do these trials always start with stairs?" Jax whispered. "No," Sarah murmured. "This spire changes its testing sequence. It adapts." "Adapts how?" "It creates obstacles based on the intruders." "Please don't call me an intruder when I open the door with my bare hand." She stopped suddenly, holding out her arm to block him. The floor ahead vanished. One moment solid walkway, the next an open shaft dropping into darkness that went on forever. Jack stepped back. "So that's a problem." Sarah walked closer to the edge and studied the gap. A series of platforms shimmered into existence far below, arranged in a grid. Each tile pulsed with a different color. Red. Blue. White. Red. Jack squinted. "What is this, an alien version of hopscotch?" "Each platform represents a construct," she said. "Force, rotation, or magnetic pressure." He stared at her. "Translation? Step on the wrong one and you die." "Ah. Clear." Sarah leaned down, extending her prosthetic slightly over the edge. Something about the moment felt vulnerable. Her balance depended on that leg, and it trembled faintly. "If I had full integration," she began. "You don't," Jack said gently. "So let's work with what we have." Sarah studied him, unsure. "Back on Earth," Jax continued, "I land ships with half a navigation system and a prayer. I don't solve puzzles by thinking. I solve them by moving. Movement without calculation is fatal." "True. But calculation without movement means standing here forever." His tone wasn't mocking. It was steady. They watched the platforms together. A pattern emerged, but not in the tiles. In the timing. Each platform shifted properties after 3 seconds, rotating between safe and lethal. Jax's eyes narrowed. These aren't logic puzzles. They're rhythm puzzles. Sarah blinked. Explain rhythm. Watch. He tapped his fingers against his thigh, counting. 1, 2, 3. A blue tile flashed to white. 1, 2, jump. Sarah's eyes widened as Jax leapt. He landed on a white tile just as the red ones blasted upward with kinetic force. He didn't hesitate. He moved again. Each jump timed by instinct, not thought. Sarah watched, stunned. You are not calculating, she whispered. Nope. You are adapting. Yup. He reached a platform on the opposite side. Panting, he motioned for her. If I can do it, you absolutely can. She hesitated. Her leg actuator whined. She was used to planning every action, calculating every angle. Her life depended on predictability. Jax called out. You said this spire kills people who can't adapt, right? Yes. Then stop trying to be perfect. She didn't argue. Sarah stepped back, gauged the distance, then ran forward, her movements fluid until the prosthetic clipped slightly. She adjusted mid-stride, caught balance with her arm, and leapt, landing on the first tile. Her breath hitched. The tiles shifted beneath her foot, but she didn't fall. Jax grinned. Again! Do not start cheering. You can't stop me. She leapt again, finding the rhythm, not matching Jax's path, but her own. Where Jax was reckless momentum, she used precision and timing. Where she slowed, he encouraged. Where he misread a tile, she corrected the next sequence. Together, they crossed the grid. When they reached solid ground, Sarah stood silently for a moment, processing. You adapted, Jax said softly. She lifted her chin. You predicted without logic. Yeah. That's called being stubborn until physics agrees. She didn't smile, but something in her posture eased. They walked deeper into the spire. The corridor opened into a wide chamber. Unlike the first trial, this one held no visible traps, just two consoles on opposite sides. Sarah studied the architecture. A synchronicity trial. Meaning? 2 activation points. Simultaneous engagement. He pointed. You take that one. She didn't move. What's wrong? He asked. The spire does not allow mismatched integration. It may accept you. It may reject me. Jax stepped closer. Then we push them together. Her voice wavered. Just slightly. You don't know me. Then this is a good day to start. They walked to opposite consoles. Jax placed his hand on a smooth surface. It lit blue. Sarah pressed her palm to hers. Hers flickered. An error glyph appeared. Her prosthetic whined under strain. It's rejecting me, she murmured. No. It's rejecting the prosthetic. Sarah closed her eyes, steadying her breath. Jax tightened his grip on the console. Ready? Yes. On 3. 1. Sarah activated early. He activated half a beat late. The consoles pulsed red. Jax laughed. Wow. Teamwork. We failed. No. We learned the timing. We are not synchronized. We could fix that. How? This time she watched him, not the console. He nodded. She mirrored. They pressed at the same instant. The entire chamber glowed white. A new passage revealed itself ahead, carved by shifting plates. The spire had accepted them. Sarah stepped forward, voice low. Your unpredictability is useful. And your accuracy keeps us alive. For now. Jax grinned. That's practically a compliment. It was not meant as one. But this time, she walked beside him. Not ahead. The palinode chamber felt alive. Jax and Sarah stepped into a circular hall lined with vertical crystal spines that pulsed in dim intervals, like the heartbeat of something ancient and waiting. The ground beneath their boots hummed, vibrating faintly through the soles. Every structure around them seemed built with precision and purpose, yet nothing had signs of age. It all felt awake. Jax turned in a slow circle. This is either a communication center, a server core, or a shrine to someone obsessed with glowing furniture. Sarah ignored the comment. Her focus was locked on the obelisk positioned at the room's center, a narrow pillar connected by a web of cables and luminous filaments. The palinode, she breathed. Jax lifted a brow. Is that supposed to sound dramatic? It rewrites access hierarchies, she said. If I can synchronize here, I can authenticate my body signature. The spire would no longer classify me as defective. Jax understood. She wasn't just trying to send a signal. She was trying to reclaim her identity. Let's activate it, he said. They moved toward the obelisk. Sarah reached out. Her hand hovered inches from the crystal, hesitant but determined. This wasn't just a console. It was a chance to undo years of being labeled a malfunction. Then, a metallic snap echoed behind them. Jax spun. 6 figures emerged from the shadows, armor reflecting the light like polished obsidian. Their movements were synchronized, each footfall exact. Helmets retracted, revealing faces marked by cybernetic enhancements, clean, symmetrical, flawless. And cold. At their front stood a tall figure with 4 mechanized arms nestled against his back, each tipped with a weaponized tool. His presence was unsettling, not just imposing, but designed for superiority. Commander Threx. His black enhancements made Sarah's mismatched prosthetic look like scrap. Well, Jax muttered, I don't like him. Threx's gaze swept over Jax once, dismissive. Then he turned to Sarah. Vale, he said, voice smooth like cut metal. You were instructed to remain outside this site. Sarah's posture stiffened. I was never instructed. I was exiled. Because you failed, Threx replied. Jax stepped between them. Newsflash, she got me here alive. Threx studied Jax like examining a disposable item. Humans are unenhanced. Primitive. Biologically inefficient. Jax shrugged. You should see our tax code. Threx blinked, clearly not familiar with sarcasm. Sarah moved slightly closer to Jax, subtle, but protective. This spire recognized him, she said. He accessed the entrance. That has never happened with an unmodified organism? Threx cut in. The spire sometimes admits vermin. Jax raised a hand. Half of you guys could really benefit from spending 5 minutes on the internet. We have memes about this level of arrogance. A Dominion soldier moved behind them, raising a weapon. Before Jax could react, cold shackles locked around his wrists, binding them together with a magnetic click. Jax struggled. Seriously? Restraints? I didn't even mouth off properly yet. Threx gestured, and 2 soldiers restrained Sarah. They forced her to her knees, biometal cuffs locking around her ankles and wrists. Her jaw tightened, not out of fear, but fury. I knew, Threx said quietly. The first time I saw your replacement limb, that failure had finally caught you. Sarah said nothing. You should have been recycled, he continued, voice devoid of emotion. Instead, you wander ruins, clinging to the idea that broken parts hold value. Sarah lifted her chin. Broken parts carried us here. Jax leaned forward. Yeah, and by the way, A soldier jabbed an electroprod between his ribs. White-hot pain lanced through him. His vision blurred. Threx watched him calmly. Do not interrupt. Jax gasped as the shock faded. His knees buckled, but he stayed standing. Barely. Threx turned back to Sarah. You disappoint me. You were a high-performing operative. Now you choose a defective partner. She is not defective, Jax snapped. She's more capable than. The prod jabbed him again. Agony flared, cutting off his voice. Sarah fought her restraints. Stop touching him. Threx tilted his head, studying her like a malfunctioning machine. Interesting. You protect a biological inferior. He is not inferior, Sarah growled. He is unaugmented. He is beneath you, Threx said, his tone sharp. He weighs you down. Jax spat blood. Buddy, I don't weigh her down. She drags me everywhere. A few Dominion soldiers glanced at each other. Confusion, amusement, annoyance. Hard to tell. Jax spoke again, forcing the words through pain. She brought me through those trials. Your perfect soldiers would have died in the first room. Threx's eyes darkened. You presume to compare us to an unstable prosthetic and a luck-dependent creature? He activated an interface on his wrist. The Palinode's spines responded. Energy surged, heavy and suffocating. Sarah's restraints tightened to the point of bruising. Her breathing grew shallow. Threx circled her slowly. You want reinstatement. You want legitimacy. You want to feel whole again. He leaned close. But you will never be whole. Sarah closed her eyes. A part of her believed him. Threx gestured to Jax. Bring the human. Two soldiers dragged Jax toward the Palinode, forcing him into a standing frame position near the main console. Metal arms locked around his chest. Threx connected a cable from a wrist port into the Palinode. The interface lit with structured symbols, clean, mathematical, rigid. I will extract the Earth's signal codes from his neural synapses. I don't have codes, Jax said. I'm a cargo pilot. My ship carried dehydrated noodles and one very disappointed parrot. Threx ignored him. The machine activated. Static electricity crawled across Jax's skin. His jaw clenched as pain surged through him, not sharp, but deep, a sensation like his mind was being pried open. Sarah thrashed against her cuffs, fury collapsing into raw fear. Stop! She shouted. You will kill him! Threx didn't glance her way. If the biological expires, the data remains extractable. Sarah's breathing turned erratic. Her restraints bit deeper. She bowed her head. But something changed. Not in her. In the Palinode. The symbols around Jax flickered. The system stuttered. Threx frowned. The extraction protocol, why is it resisting? The Palinode's crystal spines pulsed in irregular rhythm. It was not accepting Threx's signature. Jax gasped, chest heaving. Maybe your perfect upgrades aren't compatible with vintage alien architecture. Sarah looked up. Her expression shifted. A realization clicked. Threx's enhancements were too refined. Too predictable. Too complete. The Palinode wasn't rejecting him because he was unauthorized. It was rejecting him because he was flawless. The machine couldn't process perfection. Sarah inhaled sharply and pulled her bound hands toward the obelisk. Her prosthetic whined, struggling against the restraints. Servos sparked. Threx noticed too late. Sarah slammed her mismatched hand against the console. The Palinode responded instantly. Her damaged interface, her imperfect signals, aligned with its irregular systems like puzzle pieces from the same broken set. Energy surged. The restraints on Jax dissolved into dust. Sarah's cuffs fell away an instant later. Threx staggered. How? Sarah stood. No hesitation. No doubt. The Palinode speaks to what doesn't match, she said. To what adapts. She grabbed Jax's arm, pulling him to his feet. Pain still echoed through him, but his voice was steady. You're not broken, he said quietly. You're the upgrade. Threx lunged, metal arms unfolding like blades. Sarah shoved Jax behind her. The Palinode's spines ignited, every crystal in the chamber glowing white. Jax whispered. Sarah. She didn't look away from Threx. Run. They sprinted toward the exit passage that opened like a living wound in the wall. Threx's roar echoed after them. You cannot escape. Perfection never loses. Sarah didn't slow. She glanced back only once and said, without turning her voice hard. Perfection can't keep up. Sarah didn't run like someone escaping. She ran like someone deciding the outcome. Jax matched her pace, even though every nerve felt scorched from the Palinode's extraction attempt. He shoved the pain aside, later problem. Right now, Threx and his elite soldiers were tearing through the chamber behind them. The hallway shifted as they moved, the walls folding and unfolding like origami. The spire was adapting too, responding to Sarah's connection. Not perfection. Her imperfection. Sarah, left! Jax shouted. A corridor slid open beside them. Sarah changed direction instantly, her prosthetic adjusting to the angle with a harsh mechanical click. They burst into a new chamber illuminated by pulsing white floor segments and tall crystalline spines. The room had no exits. Jax turned back. Not a fan of dead ends. Sarah didn't answer. She was already at the wall, hands pressed to the surface. Panels shifted beneath her touch, reacting to her irregular biosignature. Threx will reach us in 20 seconds, she said. Love the countdown, Jax said, trying to catch his breath. Adds pressure. Then Threx's voice echoed from the corridor. You cannot hide. He stepped into view, for mechanical arms extended and ready. Sparks arced along his limbs, cutting tools, restraints, plasma blades. The Dominion soldiers flanked him, moving with identical precision. Jax instinctively stepped in front of Sarah. Today's plan, Jax whispered. We survive. Sarah's voice was steady. I will not let him take you again. Threx's gaze narrowed. Move away from her, human. You are irrelevant. Funny, Jax said. I keep getting kidnapped and tortured for someone irrelevant. Threx lunged. Sarah shoved Jax sideways. A plasma blade struck the floor where he'd stood. The room reacted. Crystal spines shot upward between them and Threx-like defensive teeth. The spire protects you, Threx growled. No, Sarah said. It rejects you. She darted left, moving with lethal efficiency. Her prosthetic kept pace, barely, but her upper body carried the motion with fluid precision. Jax ran opposite, playing distraction. He snatched a shard of fallen crystal, a jagged piece as long as his forearm. It wasn't much, but it felt solid. Hey, salad fork! He yelled at Threx. Over here! Threx turned, exactly what Jax wanted. He threw the shard. It hit Threx's shoulder and shattered. Threx barely reacted. That was pointless. No, Jax said. That was bait. Sarah launched from the opposite side, catching Threx's exposed flank and driving her knee, prosthetic first, into the central joint of his lower arm. Metal buckled with a satisfying crack. Threx staggered. You cannot fight perfection, he snarled. You're not perfect, Sarah said. You are predictable. He struck her across the face with the back of an augmented arm. The impact sent her crashing into a crystal spine. Jax charged without thinking. Get away from her! Threx turned, ready to cut him down, but Sarah swept Jax's legs out from under him, saving him from a plasma blade that would have split him in half. Do not do that, she snapped. You will die. I'm improving. You are not. Threx's soldiers advanced. Sarah wiped blood from her lip. Jax, I need time. The palinode responds to me. I can trigger a full system override. Jax crawled behind a crystal pillar. How much time? 40 seconds. 40 seconds? In a fight that lasts 20? She didn't blink. Adapt. Jax turned toward the Dominion soldiers. Fine. If she needed 40 seconds, he'd give her 40. He raised both hands. Hey, metal boys! You ever fight a human with no plan? One soldier charged. Jax ducked under the strike and grabbed an exposed cable along the creature's arm, yanking with all his weight. The soldier's arm jerked backward, momentum pulling it off balance. Its weapon misfired, hitting another soldier. 2 for 1. Jax blinked. Huh! That felt like talent. Behind him, Sarah placed both hands on the palinode interface. The crystals shifted, welcoming her touch. Symbols swirled across the walls. Threx saw. No! He sprinted toward her. Jax threw himself into the path, arms outstretched like some heroic idiot. Threx slammed a mechanical palm into Jax's chest. Jax flew backward, smashing into a wall so hard the world fuzzed around the edges. Sarah shouted something, but Jax couldn't hear. His ribs pulsed with agony. Even breathing hurt. Threx loomed over him. You are a weak species, Threx said. Unaided. Imperfect. Disposable. Jax spat dust. You forgot stubborn. Threx raised a blade to finish him. And the spire responded to Sarah's touch. Crystal spires erupted from the ground, crashing into Threx and pinning two of his mechanical arms. He roared, ripping one free. Sparks flew. Sarah's voice filled the chamber, not loud, but certain. This system was built by imperfect minds. It responds to those who change. The walls brightened. The spire's power amplified. Threx thrashed, struggling against the crystallized restraints. You cannot command it! You are broken! Sarah stepped toward him, prosthetic leg clicking with each step. No, she said, her voice steady. I am evolving. She touched a final panel. The palinode engaged. The spire unleashed a focused burst of electromagnetic force, directly into Threx's enhancements. His arms spasmed. The circuits inside him overloaded. He screamed as his body seized and collapsed. Sarah watched him fall and didn't look away. The light faded. Silence followed. Jax pushed himself upright, wincing. That was a lot. She turned toward him, expression unreadable. She knelt and placed her hand against his chest, checking his breathing. You are injured. Technically alive, he croaked. Pretty proud of that. She didn't smile. But something changed in her eyes, like a locked door opening. You placed yourself between me and a lethal strike. I do that for people I care about. She blinked as if unfamiliar with the sentence. You care? He rested his forehead against hers. You saved me. I protect you. That's what partners do. Before either of them could speak again, a deep rumble shook the chamber. The palinode projected a holographic path, the exit route. Sarah exhaled slowly. We must leave. The system is entering shutdown. They followed the projection through the spire, emerging into bright sunlight. A ship descended from the sky, sleek, white, unmistakably human. Jax grinned exhaustedly. Rescue. The ramp lowered. Armed figures stepped out, Earth Union Marines. Behind them came Captain Rain, a woman with clipped silver hair and an expression that screamed bureaucratic judgment. Jax Rourke, she called. I should have known you'd turn a delivery job into a diplomatic nightmare. Jax pointed at Sarah. I also collected a friend. Rain's gaze traveled over Sarah, taking in the prosthetic, the alien scars, the way she stood close to Jax. Is this a hostage situation? Rain asked flatly. Or a relationship? Sarah answered. He is mine. Rain blinked. Ah. Relationship, then. Jax coughed. Sarah, that phrasing. I mean we are partners, Sarah clarified. Voluntarily. Jax smiled weakly. Better. Rain folded her arms. Earth doesn't have clearance for alien refugees. There will be paperwork. I can help, Sarah said. I am very efficient with broken systems. Rain stared. Then sighed. That's embarrassingly accurate. Sarah stepped onto the ramp. She turned back to Jax. You walked into death for me. You hacked a god machine for me. And now, she said, voice steady, we walk forward together. Jax extended his hand. Co-pilot? She took it, lacing her fingers with his. No, she said. Partner. They ascended the ramp, leaving the spire behind. As the ship lifted, Jax looked out the viewport. The first spire dimmed, folding into the landscape, dormant once more. You okay? He asked. Sarah leaned her head on his shoulder, an unfamiliar gesture, but natural. I am not perfect. He kissed the top of her head. Good. Perfect never changes. She closed her eyes. And change saved us.